Hey everybody, it's Snapper. So, I got a lot of good news for this Christmas season. One, as you look in front of you, that is my Christmas present that my wife kind of got me. And two, I finally got a good camera. So, I can stop recording with this potato that I'm using. And yes sir, top of the line digital camera. So, give me a minute, let me swap this bad boy out for the potato that I'm using. And we'll continue the video. Haha, much better, isn't it? No longer potato vision. Okay, so let's talk about what you're seeing in front of you. This is a Colt 1860 Army that was made in 1862 by the serial number. Garrett's been helping me do a little bit of research on it. One of the books he has says that it could possibly be from the 22nd Pennsylvania Volunteer Cavalry. But we're not 100% sure on that at all. It's just in a book saying that the serial number range would have most likely been there. But it's a book, so. In true life, who really knows? Now, this gun is pretty fascinating. And that's a lot of the reasons I bought it. One, I wanted an 1860 Army. And two, well, let me show you. Okay, now the cylinder that's on it right now is not its cylinder that came with it. This is. And the barrel that's on this gun, let me flip it up and let you see it. It's got a little repair on there on the top. Fascinating, huh? Well, this is a spare cylinder that I have that I put on it. And I have a spare barrel, but even though I have a spare barrel, it's a modern replacement barrel for an original. So it fits, but it's not an original Colt barrel, old school barrel. So it doesn't say, Colt, address Samuel Colt or Colonel Samuel Colt, New York City, whatever. I don't have it on the gun. It's in the other bedroom. But eventually, matter of fact, if anybody out there who watches this video knows somebody who has an original 1860 Army barrel that the markings are good on it, a lot of the rifling is still there. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's looking to sell one, please let me know because I'm looking for one. And you don't come across them as much as you would think. But the cylinder that's in it's an original cylinder. And so let me talk about the cylinder again. We're looking at pictures of Colts that were blown up by smokeless powder and then Colts that were blown up by squib loads. And this is definitely a squib load. It blew the cylinder part out, and you'd think that this massive patch means that it blew the cylinder out, but it only cracked it. It cracked it from, about there to down here. And they had brazed it and then put some piece of metal over top of it and brazed that down too. When I first got it, it's actually sticking up really high, almost like a camel hump right here. I guess they're trying to reinforce it so that it could be shot, but I would never attempt that. Now, speaking of stupid things to attempt, I'm planning on saving this barrel. Not as what it is, but I came up with an idea because a lot of the times, some of the fun of this is, well, the barrel's junk, right? It's scrap. So the only thing I can do is make it worse. And that would suck, but with my welding abilities, I can make it look pretty again, just be worse. But the idea of being able to keep the original barrel with the gun, because it's a matching serial number. And so the idea is, if you notice, this is a round cylinder when it was made. And, they formed it, this design. They probably carved it out of wood. And, then they would cast them in hard steel. Probably a forged kind of steel where they pound it into a mold. And, and then cut it out. But the idea is this barrel diameter is in here. All the way through here. So, give me just a sec. Okay, so like I was saying, there's a cylinder in here with this diameter. If I stuck this thing in a mill, in the vise, and I centered on this barrel, and I got either an end mill or set up a boring head to cut out a perfect circle of where the barrel is, and just and to this size down here, but only to about this depth, just a little bit past where they did any work. So there'll be some metal in here to hold it, and then being whatever slug that was that I carved out, I would turn on my lathe and then, you know, actually stick that piece of metal, and it would fit tightly in here and butt up against everything and fit perfectly, because we were using machinery and make everything to the closest possible tolerances. Then I would end up putting a little bit of a chamfer around it, TIG weld it in. Then once it's all TIG welded in, you know, smooth it, sand it, file it, the whole 9 yards to get it looking basically the way it is right now, but it would just have a new piece of metal from, you know, about here back, from as a perfect circle from about there, you know, and then there stuck in. And then go in and drill it out from the front so it would all be in, you know, maintained true. And then end up getting a barrel blank. And then pressing a barrel blank through, and then chamfering the ends and TIG welding them, and so you can't see the two line differences. And that is more than enough, far more than enough strength to handle, you know, what an 1860 Army can put out. So that's the idea. It's a lot of work for, you know, it's something that would cost you a lot of money to do, and it's just not worth it unless you did it yourself. So I'm going to attempt it just because I love these old guns. And I would just love the idea of being able to keep the original factory number matching barrel to the gun. And if I get that far, what I want to do is, there is a little bit of the writing left on this, on the top. And it's not much, realistically. You can still see the address. And then it's hard to see here in the camera, but it says address Colonel. And then it starts to say Samuel, and then it kind of gets to Colt, and then it disappears. But, yeah, it's kind of a nasty repair, but it's actually a fairly decent repair. You can see the crack here and right there from when the squib load happened. So you guys tell me what you think. And here, I'll give you some close-ups of this bad boy. It's a shame, isn't it? And look at the back of this guy. This gear, you know, on the back, and these stops. It's so rare to see stops left on these guns. And then the nipples, they're actually in really good shape. They're dirty, obviously. I haven't cleaned the cylinder yet. But there's its inspector mark, which is actually a C. Looks kind of like a D, but it's not. It's a C. And let's see. Your address, Samuel Colt. So yeah, pretty cool, huh? Now, one thing we did find while looking at it, there's really not much of the navel seam left. But if you look, that's 8126 is the serial number on that. So this isn't the original cylinder for this gun, matching cylinder for this gun. But that doesn't mean too much. It's not uncommon to run into, especially military used guns, where they don't have the same cylinder on them, but the barrel and the rest of it would be the same. That's more common than not. And if you ever came across one that, you know, says Colt patent and has everything done on it, but it doesn't have a serial number in the end of it, it would either be, you know, either a modern one, or if you ordered a cylinder from Colt, not when you bought your gun, but say you went to the store and bought another cylinder for it, there'd be no serial number on it. So that's another big common thing too, and that's probably what I'm going to do with this, because this is actually a blank serial number one that was ordered. I'm going to leave it blank, obviously, but that's what this is. This is actually an original, but it was a factory ordered, you know, original. So what I'm going to do until I do all this work to this is, I have that modern reproduction barrel. So it's not like it's a Uberti or a Pieta. It actually was made and built for Colts as a replacement barrel. But, you know, it came in white steel, and there's no serial number, and it doesn't even say address Samuel Colt on the barrel, nothing like that. And it doesn't even have the same gain twist in it. It just is a barrel that fits. And if anybody out there, again, knows where I can find one of these barrels, please hit me up, because I would love to to get one. And of course, new camera, but these things just hate to focus, don't they? Still see some of the cartouche. And I've never seen this either. In the cartouche area, it's like almost 3 little brass pins. I've never seen that before. I don't know what that means. If anybody out there has ever seen that or know what it means, please let me know in the comments. Now this gun, even though it looks old and it's got a little bit of damage on the wood from use, which actually could come out, this gun is not that beat up and it's not that used, because if you look at the cylinder pin, it all actually mics perfectly. Normally they'll look like this, but they're not the right size anymore. They've been worn, and you can still see a little bit of the color cast hardening here. And when you take the grip off, it is beautiful under there. It's got a little bit of corrosion that crept under, but the inside of this gun, from like this area coming into this area, looks brand new. The actual spring looks beautiful. The screws are beautiful niter blued. And then you start seeing the area where the black powder or just dust got in from either here or from underneath the hammer here. And it's just gorgeous. I'll try to put some pictures in. And just the color case hardening that would have been on this gun was just beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. It's got its most of its inspection markings are S. And I think that's a C. Or an E, I don't remember. And obviously this is the barrel that was on it. And the nipples, I can't quite show you, but they're all actually in really good spec. And other than this one, where it looks like somebody was pounding it to get it off the gun at some time, check out those 3 top chambers that I've turned there. Oh, come on. Let me turn the light on, see if that helps. Ta-da! You see that gray on the inside that looks like it's peeling away? That's lead. Isn't that just the neatest thing? I was like looking at that and I was like, what in the world? And I started just playing with it, the screwdriver, and it's soft lead. It's a beautiful, fascinating gun. Well, so I just cleaned the 1860 Army and the good old sonic cleaner. Matter of fact, as you can see, all the stuff that came out of it. And being that this gun was most likely not touched since it blew up, and personally, I believe this probably happened in battle with a squib load, and we'll get into some more of that later, but the smell, I wish I could translate the smell. The smell of this gun is like many of the Colts that I've had, especially because most of the collectors will never take them apart and clean them. They just get them the way they are and they stick them on their shelves. I always take my gun to the cart and clean them, and they all smell the same. Especially when they're pre like 1920s, they have this smell to them, like an old library or an old book. The smell is phenomenal. I kind of wish there was just a way to let everybody else. And what's sad is once you fix it and clean it out like this, it ends up smelling like ballastol because I cover them in ballastol. But the original smell, I mean, it's not bad. It actually smells good in a like familiar old like library area that nobody ever goes down, or old books in a box that haven't been touched in decades. That smell, it's I don't know, in a way it smells like everything that's really old. And it's rare that I get to smell it this strong, because this gun was really dirty. This is the second tank full, and the first one was almost black, because this gun it still had a lot of black powder residue on the inside of it. And you think that it would have rusted really bad, but it didn't. Which is kind of fairly interesting. But just like everything else I've noticed, some of the things that we've been taught or told is very different. I've seen black powder guns sit for a very long time and not rust at all, but I've seen Pyrex guns rust within a day or two. So I just wanted to share that with you. The smell is just phenomenal. Well, here at the Snapper family household, we hope you had a very Merry Christmas and you also have a very good New Year. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.